Tonight, in this edition of the primetime newscast on Equinox Television, the President of the Republic of Cameroon has said that the structural adjustment program with the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, would rescue Cameroon from persisting fall in economic growth. He was speaking while receiving New Year wishes in the nation's capital, Yaoundé, today, during which he equally indicated that the fight against terrorism and solutions to the current migrant crisis rocking the African continent should be a global concern. In this newscast, we shall be bringing to you his declarations at the Unity Palace that was this Thursday. Also ahead, we tell you how two suspects said to be masterminds of the death of the pastor of the Presbyterian Church in Kobisong in the nation's capital, Yaoundé, that have so far been arrested. Those are headlines. Stay with us. We shall be right back. Good evening to you, ladies and gentlemen. We thank you so much for joining us in this edition of the primetime newscast on Equinox Television. The President of the Republic of Cameroon has described the current migrant crisis in the African continent as one of the worst calamities of the 21st century. Speaking to close to 70 members of the diplomatic corps today, as he received New Year wishes, President Paul Biya said that the fight against the phenomenon should be global, adding that it should not be the lone responsibility of the African Union. The President equally underscored the need for humanity and greater solidarity to continue despite individual hardship. He further condemned what he called negative nationalism, which he also said may be the outcome of economic hardship and other social ills. He said that terrorism is a threat to the world despite efforts by the government or the Cameroonian Defense Forces so far. And it should be noted that the Dean of the diplomatic community in his address equally pledged the support of the international community in the fight against terrorism in Cameroon. He equally assured the full support of the international community in guaranteeing a hitch-free election this 2018 in the country. It should be noted that it was during the New Year wishes that he was receiving in the nation's capital a traditional annual ceremony during which he equally raised concerns over the economy. He indicated that a drop in oil prices have slowed down economic growth, making it necessary to adjust or to return to the IMF structural adjustment program. And the Senate President is as well going to be receiving New Year wishes, that is tomorrow, in the nation's capital. We now talk about a phenomenon in the nation's capital, Yaoundé. Tomatoes that have remained very cheap in the market across the national territory, with retailers selling the perishable goods at giveaway prices at the A2D market in the nation's capital. We shall be telling you in the following report with Innocent Aze how vendors are complaining of limited possibilities to even make gains as a result of the situation. His report.
Unlike in the littoral region, tomatoes are displayed all over markets in the central region, Yaoundé. At the A2D market, the perishable good is sold at unimaginable takeaway prices. Before, 3 tomatoes were sold for 100 francs, but now it has multiplied. A set that was usually sold for 500 francs is now 100 francs. What is certain is that tomatoes consumption rate is now higher than groundnut, an effect of supply surmounting demand. The perishable commodity is now decorating the market in Gogo. Meanwhile, few months ago, its scarcity was a call for concern. Before, vendors hired a carton of tomatoes at 15 to 20,000 francs CFA and sold a bucket at 3,500. But today, they afford a carton of tomatoes at 5,000 francs and retail in a bucket at the cost of 1,000, 2,000 francs CFA, but no one is buying. tomatoes vendors lament over non-maximization of profit. They believe it is because households have bought the cheap perishable goods and stocked in their refrigerators. Retailers are caught in the web as they cannot gain 2,000 francs profit from the sales. In a bid to survive, the retailers are compelled to adopt new marketing strategy. They package some of the tomatoes in plastic papers and commission their children to carry and market them in and around the market. These excesses are justified by the blocking of the Cameroon-Nigerian border, which is the market's gateway. It is also due to the large-scale production of tomatoes in Cameroon. When tomatoes were formerly expensive, many gardeners engaged in tomatoes farming to make huge profits. Whatever be the case, tomatoes is now cheap and feature in every meal on the table as the tombola proceeds in markets in Yaoundé as well as in other regions.
And it was under tight security that some 198 elements of the armed forces were decorated in different ranks at the Manga William Ceremonial Ground in Limbe Southwest region of Cameroon. David Simaimo tells us in the following report that it was the first time that the said ceremony unfolded in a very tense atmosphere. His report.
Elements from the National Gendarmerie, Rapid Intervention Battalion, the B, and Marine Commandos placed a strategic point around the ceremonial ground with firearms, all having one instruction: to guide and protect the area until after the ceremony. It is the first time such is happening. An officer contacted by this reporter said in the French language, and I quote, "C'est mesure sécurité," end of quote. Equally, another innovation was the use of English language that saw two communication officers, even though that of English was a retired soldier.
I told you, he's the commander of the training center, the Rapid Intervention Battalion, being at Manu. Few weeks ago, many children passed out of his center, and we think that that's why the healthcare is necessary to compensate him for a job well done. 1,800 graduated from the training center B. So we are grateful for that.
The ceremony witnessed some 198 soldiers from the National Gendarmerie, the B, and the Marine being decorated with epaulettes of different grade. Among them, 2 senior officers from the B, 2 non-commissioned officers promoted to sub-lieutenant, 74 non-commissioned officers, and 122 rank and files officers. The event, which was presided at by the senior divisional officer for FACO, Ngambe Emmanuel Edo, witnessed the presence of the military garrison commander and commander of the naval base in Limbe. The troops were commanded by Major Amuga of the Rapid Intervention Battalion.
We now take you to Ebagawan, that is a village in Belabo in the east region of Cameroon, where the digging of sand is the major activity occupying local inhabitants. The activity that has been going on for close to 17 years now is a profitable venture, as Katrin Kondi tells us in the following report.
We are at the banks of River Sanaga, not far from a village called Ebagawan, where digging of sand from the Sanaga River is intensely being carried out. This is a reserved activity that is being carried out since 17 years ago. To this inhabitant, it is an activity that we have been carrying out for some time now. It is from this that we make a living, feed our families and solve other problems.
La première des choses avant de commencer, il faut d'abord une pirogue.
The first thing to do is to get a canoe, which we make locally, because without a canoe we cannot do anything in the river. Extraction of sand from the Sanaga River is not an easy task. To the inhabitants, to get a lot of sand, it requires 10 canoe boxes and the risk is very high.
On a eu un incident en 2005.
According to this inhabitant, they had an incident in 2005 where one of them, who did not know how to swim, got into the river on the 5th of September. He had overloaded his canoe. He got drowned. Until today, his corpse was never found. The return of the Rambo is not highly welcome because a trip into the river is not always a pleasant one. Even the children from the village already mastered the secret of the river. To this child, he digs sand over the weekend when his father is not working. He makes at least 5,000 francs a day. It suffices to get materials, speed and canoe boxes. According to this man, for the divers it requires 2,500 francs CFA for one canoe box to be filled. For those who offload, they need about 1,000 francs CFA to do so per canoe box, making a total of 3,500 francs per canoe. Concerning the sales, the client as well as the type of sand and price are well known in advance. The price of sand per canoe box varies. It depends on the bargaining power of the client and agreed price. In order to carry out this activity in serenity.
And on that note, we take you to talk about the shocking incident that took place in the nation's capital, Yaoundé, the death of the pastor of the Presbyterian Church in Korbisson. The two boys, aged 27 and 16, suspected of killing Pastor Ewala Jeremiah of the Presbyterian Church Korbisson, have so far been arrested by elements of the judicial police in Yaoundé. The suspects are said to have mistaken the victim for his predecessor. His predecessor is the former pastor of the church that had taken the eldest of the alleged killers to the police, where he was charged to pay the sum of 100,000 francs CFA for stealing a laptop. Today, the alleged killers carried out a replay of the murder sequence. They reportedly attacked the clergy. That was on the night of the 19th of December 2017. Killed him and dumped him in a bush that was nearby the Korbisson church. He was only discovered on the 23rd of December 2017. A shocking incident in the church. The mortal remains of the pastor were only removed from the mortuary. Today is going to be conveyed to the northwest region of the country for burial. We now talk sports. Football. Union Sportif of Douala that has begun training ahead of the 2018 Professional Elite 1 Championship in Cameroon. The early preparation, according to the staff of the said club, is to render the players set for the championship as well as win the Cup of Cameroon come 2018. Details with Innocent Azi.
Not long from now, the 2018 Cameroon football season will kick off. Proper preparation, they say, prevents poor performance. Indeed, a motivation to Union Sportif of Douala that ended on the 12th position last Elite 1 Championship season with 43 points after playing all 34 matches. The Douala-based team have this January 4th begun training sessions at the stadium of the Bepana Rehabilitation and Observation Center.
We are doing everything possible so that Union Sportif of Douala this season put up a performance better than what they did during last season. When it comes precisely to the role that I have to play in this team, that's the fitness of the player. We want a team that is going to be physically fit, a team that will be able to run for 90 minutes without getting tired. And with the Union Sportif of Douala, I count on my services for me because that is what I count for the team.
According to the incoming conditional trainer, Walijom Daniel, a total of 60 players constituting both old and new have been called up for the Elite 1 Championship preparation. Among them are two foreigners, a Gabonese and Liberian.
We have an effective of close to 60 players, and that is why we are working twice a day. There is a group that works in the morning between 10 to 12, and the other group comes and work between 4 to 6 p.m. But virtually it's the same work program that we have But since the group is large, we cannot work with 60 players during the day. It's not going to be really that effective. That's why we've broken down the group into two. So we work in the morning session 10 to 12 and the evening session 4 to 6.
35 players after observation shall be retained in the team weeks ahead. Much is expected from the players to attain the objectives of Union Sportive of Douala this season.
What I'm seeing from the first group that I have seen, I cannot pronounce myself now. I'll work again in the afternoon and see the other group that I have in the afternoon. Before then, I think I'll be able to situate the level of the group when it comes to the objective we have been given.
The president of the club, Frank Happy, says new strategies have been adopted that will enable Union of Douala top the league table without rival.
On a changé de stratégie, contrairement aux années précédentes où on communiquait chacune de nos recrues, chacune de nos signatures sur la page de l'équipe.
He is also proud of the selection.
Et on a fait un bon recrutement. Maintenant, on est en phase d'évaluation.
Fervent supporters on their part wish the boys well as they continue training for the championship.
Je souhaite que l'Union de Douala remporte un titre.
Comme d'habitude, l'Union, c'est une grande équipe au championnat.
They nurse a lot of optimism.
Si c'est pas le titre ou le maintien, surtout pour moi, c'est la Coupe du Cameroun que j'ai besoin.
Union of Douala indeed means serious business as they are setting up facilities in the training center that will contribute in keeping the players in good form.
And that brings us to the end of this first segment of the news. Up next, we are going to be talking about the situation at the GC, but stay tuned. We shall be right back. Tonight, we have as guest an educationist and a principal of the government bilingual high school, Bekoko, here in the country's economic capital, Douala, Mr. Adamu Edward. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Vice Principal.
The Vice Principal, rather. Yeah, thank you so much.
It's okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me as well.
We should be thanking you for coming. Now, the deadline for the GCE candidates to register for the end-of-year examination, so for the 2018 session, has been extended to the 2nd of February 2018. The Secondary Education Minister actually, in his release that was announcing the prolongation, indicated that it's as a result of the prevailing situation in the northwest and southwest regions of Cameroon. Mr. Adamu, what I would like to find out from you is how is the Anglophone crisis affecting academic activities, especially in English-speaking schools to date?
Well, I must acknowledge the fact that there is that psychological torture at the level of the students themselves. If I look at what happened last academic year, our students kept asking us, are we sure we're going to write the exams? Despite the assurance we kept giving them that they were going to write. Whether or not, they fell for their sisters and brothers in Northwest and Southwest. Even teachers felt it. We had to have meetings to call teachers to plead with them that since we are not in the Northwest or Southwest, it's true it's a global effect in the Anglophone system, we need to work on. But I can't tell you a lie that the results were very, very poor comparatively to other years. If I look at my school, previous year, the year before, all levels we had 74%, and last year we dropped to 23%, despite the fact that we're not in the strike zone.
And the results were actually global.
They were actually global.
What could be the reason? Like you said, you are not in the Anglophone region. What could explain the fact that even your school was affected?
I must point out to you the fact that Bamenda seems to be a center for education. We used to do the Northwest mock that was prepared from Bamenda, and last year we didn't do it. A lot of material, teaching material that we used to get from Bamenda, that we didn't have it last year. And whether like it or not, it played on our students. We used to have the mock from Northwest, and that tested our students. We now knew where they were weak and we could work. Last year we had the divisional mock for Mongo. You can't, something else, well, you can't measure that up with what comes from Bamenda. And I think that it has a serious effect. That probably was the same case for mock from Southwest that we didn't have as well. We used to take the mock from Southwest and revise after we must have written that of Northwest to see where our students are. But that didn't happen last year. So
it affected you
seriously.
Now we are having the deadline extended once again for students that would be sitting in for the examinations to register. The registrar of the GC board has actually admitted that the number of those that have registered so far compared to the previous years at this point in time is quite very low.
Yeah.
Why are students still not going to school, or like why are some of them not getting themselves registered?
I think that question should go back right down to our parents. Our parents are not accepting to release their children go back to school. We must acknowledge the fact that no parent who's taking care of his child, his or her daughter, would like to risk the child. We know what the situation is in other areas. Well, maybe in areas like Douala, parents will let their children go to school. But like I said, there are lots of things psychologically that affect the children and affect the parents. I must also acknowledge the fact that it's very difficult for most parents to cope up. Mimi, you will not forget the fact that a lot of Francophones have gone into the English subsystem, and they get embarrassed when you tell them that your child has to register GCE has to pay 20,000 compared to the BPC where they pay 6,000 or 7,000. They get embarrassed. Financially to explain, and how far this exam to be written is also a pointer to the fact that most parents do not send their children to register.
And generally, in your own institution, what is the situation? Obviously, you must be having mass, I shouldn't say mass, you must be having a lot of students that have left the two English-speaking regions of Cameroon to get themselves registered at GBHS Bikoko.
Sure. We are at the outskirts of Douala. We are a few kilometers away from Southwest. We have a heavy influx on Southwest. Then lots of Northwesterners that find themselves in Bikoko, Bakoko, those neighboring areas, have brought their children in from Northwest as well. And we're having that influx. In fact, we used to, formerly, we had about 70 students for ordinary level. But this year we've gone to about 120 already, and not all have registered.
But the problem is most of the schools are not making the necessary adjustments to contain the increasing number of students, and it might have an impact on their performance, especially those who are going to be sitting in for the ordinary and advanced levels.
That's certain. Look at the case where we had a single stream, just 1 from 5. Now we are about 120 in a classroom. Whether I like it or not, no matter how good that teacher is, with the hot climate we have in Douala, the performance is surely going to drop.
But how long will this continue? Do you think that the people, the other schools will be able to bear receiving students from the Anglophone regions? Don't you think that there is need for the problem to be solved so that things can return to normal, especially in the academic milieu?
In fact, the outcry is that of this problem to be solved. Maybe this problem is not you and me solving. The powers that be should take their responsibility and have this problem solved. They will tell you they've taken a lot of measures to have this problem solved. But I bet you there's some pertinent issues. Let me give you just an example. I had a teacher who was teaching maths, who is purely Francophone, maths to Anglophones. He was teaching physics to Anglophones. You know what physics and maths mean to Anglophones. We start physics and maths from 1 up to wherever we stop. But the Francophones start maths, they start physics, chemistry in 4e. They're introduced to it. This is a teacher who went to the French education and who is teaching maths and teaching physics to Anglophones. In fact, at the end, the students kept coming on until we had to change. So I'm saying that these are some of the pertinent things that whether we like it or not, we see that this problem is real.
To bring concrete solutions.
The problem is real. These teachers have to be deployed or sent elsewhere. Like in our school, we decided to send it to the Francophone section and recruit a part-timer to teach the Anglophones if they must follow the English subsystem.
And the impact now on the performance, general performance of students, what impact, future impact will they have? You know, the GCE, the General Certificate of Education Examination, is a prestige of the Anglophone population. What impact would it have? We saw how the results were extremely poor in the year 2017, and we are moving towards a similar situation in 2018. What do you think might happen if it continues that way?
Well, I think one of the things the authorities of our country have not taken into consideration is the fact that the GCE board, being an autonomous body, and that it has relationship with other bodies out, has a certain standard. It's not because the students wrote late that they expect that the results, they should maybe add marks for students or not. The GCE board kept to the standard. And if they have to keep to the standard as they did it last year, the results are still going to be poor. extremely poor, because there was nothing like saying that, well, there was a lot of upheavals. There was a lot of upheaval in Northwest and Southwest, so we see whether we can come down to maybe 30 or 40. No, they kept to the standard, and the results were given on the standard. And if that has to be respected again this year, the results are going to be not only poor, but extremely poor.
Yes, you are saying that the standards were maintained because you are an examiner.
Well, probably so. Probably so.
The registrar of the GC board, the board chair rather, has promised that you receive your pay package by January. How did you receive the news?
Well,
as an examiner?
As an examiner, I thought it was good, but I think it's rather late.
What do you mean by that?
It's late because we don't mark exams in the month of June, July last year, and we're being paid in January. People, when they take up the responsibility to go and mark, it's true, it's a responsibility that we have as teachers, but we do spend money to pay hotels to live in the towns we are marking. If we are not paying hotel, we are paying rooms to live in them, and we expect that money be refunded to us early enough so that we can send our own children to school. When you give me money that was meant in the month of July, you give me in the month of January, it's true, they say money is good at all moments. What do I do with that money at that moment?
So it's not going to be a solution?
You may only come to some of the many problems that we have.
Thank you so much for joining us tonight on Talking Point. We hope to have you some other time again.
Thank you very much, madam. The pleasure is mine.
To our televiewers, it was equally a pleasure having you with us in this edition of the news. Wishing you a blessed stay in the company of our programs. Until we meet again, goodbye.